Hi, I'm Nico Hurtado, and I'm at Black Anchor Collective in Hesperia, California. And this is my new Dia de los Muertos tattoo DVD. I'm actually putting this Dia de los Muertos tattoo DVD in order to, I had been doing a lot of the Day of the Dead tattoos lately, so I figured, you know, it was something that maybe people wanted to see, and I've seen a lot of them done lately, a lot of the tattoos, so I thought maybe I'd put my own input out there and have people kind of see how I do them. I'm actually covering the concept and design of like the makeup on the face and how I come about it, and like reference that I look at as far as like a skull and stuff like that. I'm covering a different palette than that I've been using but don't normally use in my color portrait stuff. So this is more of like a painter's palette, and you know, just trying to keep light source colors in light and shadows in shadow, and kind of using them together. So hopefully this creates a more 3D tattoo for you, and also covering value, shape, and the filigree, and just giving a different inside look at doing them, you know, a different angle of it if you're not thinking of it like that. So hopefully this helps you out. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and get started talking to my brother right here about which picture we're going to choose. Just looking on the computer and going through them and making sure you're choosing the right one for the place on the body. You know, different spots in the body, different pictures work. So just really trying to think about the way it's going to look. We're going to have to mirror image this picture because it was taken the opposite way. Sometimes pictures look funny like that, but this one actually looks pretty good. It doesn't look off. So this is the picture we chose. Go ahead and cut it up and get it ready. Placement, make sure it's not too big. Just put it on there and make sure it really fits and looks well. You know, he actually has another piece on the opposite side of that leg that, you know, me and Sean Barber did. So here's a skull, and when I'm doing the Day of the Dead stuff, I really trying to think about like the sockets and the way it rolls around, you know, like the makeup, and also about the nose, you know, just the way the cavity looks and kind of the shape of it. So that way it's not too big or not too small when you draw it on the face, because it has to be the right shapes, you know. I always notice that if it's too square around the eyes, like the actual like makeup on the faces, it ends up looking really funny. So you really just want to kind of see how that top of that, you know, forehead right inside of the socket kind of drops down and goes up towards the center. And then as far as like, you know, on the bottom, really thinking about the cheekbones and stuff and how you can use like the filigree to make the cheekbones look right. So just trying to make it look the best it can. And you can kind of see where it's going to be. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started in drawing on this and trying to get that shape. You know, I usually like to use the eyebrows because, you know, it goes up right there. I know eyebrows usually go up on the outside, but I usually drop them in just to roll around more of the socket shape, the skull shape, just to make them look a little bit, just more like the skull. So we're going to go ahead and just draw these in and see what it looks like. So you're really paying attention underneath the eye right there and kind of thinking about where the socket would be and how deep it would be, and just making sure it looks right. This is a real tricky part when you get to the tattooing part, because your value has to be right. I mean, I see a lot of these done, and the value is off sometimes inside the sockets, because it's really hard to think about, you know, having to change the color and the value of inside of that area, you know, especially with the eyes having to be so important. So I use this picture just because it's so dramatic to where you can see the light source hitting really well. So all you really need to do is just go, you know, maybe five shades darker, and then just make sure you put your white highlights right. So yeah, just really sketching it in there, taking your time, you know. My brother wanted one of these, you know, spider webs on the forehead, so just making sure I'm finding the center of the face, you know. I think I draw it in right now. It takes me a second to realize it, I think, to draw it in. But right here, like I'm saying, paying attention to the cheekbone. So I'm going to go ahead and start drawing these cheekbones in and drawing like the filigree to really encase like the shape of this, you know. She has real strong features, so, and real strong structure to her face, so it's real easy to draw on. I made sure to use like one light source when I took the picture, that way the shadows would be pretty heavy and it'd be a little bit easier to draw. as you can see, I drew the center of the face in there a little bit and trying to get like the shape of the lips with like the shape of the lines coming out. Just trying to make that look like teeth, you know, around the lips, like make it look like, you know, the gaps in between the teeth, and really keeping that the idea. I mean, really what you're drawing on here is the shape of a skull, so that's one thing you're really trying to think about. The nose, you know, I think it's really cool. I've seen a lot of them done like spades, so I kind of use that. I think it looks really cool, but it also has the shape of the skull's face. Just really trying to get this. Sometimes it's tough. Like sometimes I have to draw it a few times in order to get it right, or sketch on it a few times to get it to the place I want. I'm doing it right here on the photocopy, so that way, you know, I don't have to look through no tracing paper or anything, just doing it straight on. That way it comes out more to my liking, and I can kind of visualize and see more what it's going to look like. I usually do 2 lines, as you can see on the cheekbones, one kind of curving upward and then one curving under and hitting the lips, just because I like being able to shade inside of the gap there and kind of show the bottom jawbone, and then it shows kind of the top cheekbone of like if there was a skull there. You know, here I'm thinking about trying to do something like an anchor or something, or 3 dots or something. I'm not really sure, just trying to mess with it, and also talking to my brother and making sure that he's liking what's going on. So I think I'm just going to keep it simple and keep like 3 dots there. Things always change though, you know. Sometimes I'll be tattooing and I'll completely change the makeup, you know. It's just kind of something that, you know, the creative part comes up and you just want to, you know, change it up and make it look a little different, or you come up with a new idea. You know, I've been liking this new thing. I overlap the filigree, you know. A guy I was working with had been doing it on his like traditional tattoos, and I thought it looked really cool, so I figured I'd swipe that idea a little bit and kind of take it for my own. So yeah, that's pretty much where I like it, pretty much what it's going to look like. So I'm going to go ahead and get the Thermofax paper and pull the center out just like we normally do, and you know, kind of show you how I trace this. So this is a mirror image copy of the actual piece I'm going to do on my brother. When I do it, I trace on it backwards because a stencil comes out on the opposite side, on the back side. So I usually use like a pen, like a pretty thick pen, like just like a big pen or something like that. Nothing too crazy. If you want to get crazy, you can use like a, you know, a mechanical pencil. Sorry. I usually use like a mechanical pencil or a big pen, depending on the thickness I need. Sometimes the mechanical pencils tend to break a lot if you don't have a good one, like this one does. This one I think started breaking on me a bunch, so I had to switch it up. But unfortunately, if you use a pen, it makes the lines a little bit thicker, it makes it a little bit harder to read when you're tattooing. So sometimes it is worth it to deal with the mechanical pencils, you know, and them breaking. I just get frustrated a little bit. So I'm going ahead and I'm just doing value, shape, or color, depending on what I think is important. Kind of just tracing that, making sure I'm paying attention to the shapes of everything and what I think is important. Make sure when you make your stencil like this, you don't overwhelm yourself, you know. I tend to go a little crazy. A lot of people say, you know, it's too much, or, you know, I've had friends tell me, take off your training wheels, you know, just funny things like that. But I'm comfortable like this, you know. This is where I understand it, and I think I need that information. A lot of times I don't even use it, but it's just I put it there because I'd rather it be there and it go away than it not be there and me be lost. But make sure that you put information that you think is important and not overwhelm yourself. Very easy to get confused, and just keep it simple and don't try to go crazy. You know, you don't want to get lost being confused also. You know, you put too many lines in one place, you can't tell where the pupil is, or you can't tell which line's the one for the top of the lip, or, you know, things like that, or which one was the makeup, you know. But right now I'm just drawing the shape and really paying attention to the shape still, like I was saying, you know, especially when I'm going around the eye, making sure you're going around that sphere of the eyeball, and, you know, the tear duct and stuff like that, and really paying attention to the shape for drawing. Don't ever attempt these kind of pieces without drawing it first. I mean, if you've never drawn something this realistic or even come close, I wouldn't recommend tattooing it. It's pretty permanent, and you really don't want to have to live with really making a mistake that bad on somebody. So I flip it over. Usually what I do now is I go ahead and put it on the photocopier, just straight down like that. I put the purple side down after I stencil right on top of my thing, And what happens is the photocopier naturally, just on its own, no mirror imaging, no nothing, will print out the exact right piece of paper and the right stencil so that way you can run through the thermofax machine. So you see I use a mirror image copy. I go ahead and trace on top of that. I'm not going to use it backwards. It's the one I'm going to tattoo is actually going to be opposite. I put it on top of the printer. Printer prints it out. The printer gives me my my paper I'm going to run through the thermofax. So real simple. Go ahead and show you here. And that's what comes out the printer. You know, so when you run it through the thermofax, it's perfect. It's the right, it's mirror image just right on its own. And you don't need mirror imaging on your actual printer. You just do it in the Photoshop like I normally do. And then you come out with a nice, perfect stencil that you can use. And you can keep running if you need to, you know, if you put it on and it ends up being blurred, you can just keep running them and getting new ones, you know. So that way you don't have to use just a one-shot stencil. And, you know, I usually make this stuff for my stencils. It's really strong. It's just like speed stick deodorant I put in, and I go ahead and melt it down in a microwave, and I mix it with you know, green soap, distilled water, and alcohol. It's usually 1 full stick of deodorant melted down in the microwave about 15 seconds. That's the stuff right there. And then whatever the liquid comes out to, like the amount, I get the exact same amount of green soap and a distilled water, and it has to be like half green soap, half distilled water. And I go ahead and make sure it equals the same amount as the deodorant that was just melted. And then I mix them together, and then I put 2 caps of the alcohol bottle, like the actual caps on the bottle itself of alcohol. You put 2 caps into it and you shake it real well. It'll get a little thick. If it gets too thick, remelt it, add a little bit here and there. But the stuff is awesome. You know, see how well it sticks here? I mean, it works really great. See, you only pat it once and you try not to smudge it, but a little bit comes off. Give it about 10-15 minutes to dry, and that thing is going to be stuck on there the whole time you tattoo. It really is amazing stuff, real cheap to make. It only costs like, I don't know, maybe $3 to make it, and you have enough to last you a month or longer, you know. It's great stuff. I learned it from taking seminars and stuff like that. It's real cool. Usually I'll take my finger and just kind of smudge it to kind of get direction and an idea. You know, that's what those smudge marks are, just trying to get an idea of what I want, how far I want it to go, just kind of taking it off. I'll make sure to re-explain the stencil stuff one more time for you before the DVD's over, so that way you guys can make it and really, you know, understand it and use it, because it's really good stuff. So right here, I'm thinking about doing some rays, and my brother was talking, he wanted like a Virgin Mary kind of thing. So I made sure to draw something real simple, nothing crazy. I'm just trying to get like the shapes I want to use there. I really actually didn't know what I was going to do yet. I mean, I thought about different ideas and stuff, but yeah, you know, a lot of the time the background or things like this, you know, I leave pretty simple if it's going to be done in that same sitting, you know, and I just kind of make it up. You know what I mean? I don't really think about it too far in advance, and I pay attention more to what I'm going to do. So now I'm going to show you my favorite machine. That's my Aaron Kane machine right there. I've had that for about, you know, 7 years. I've used it most of my career. There was times I used other machines, but that's my hands down favorite machine. This is my second favorite machine. It's a Bloodhound machine. It's awesome. It runs great. It's never really given me any trouble, never changed anything on it. I've been using this machine a lot. It's a FK iron. Really light, really good, really strong. It's a number 3 actually. I'm really honored to have it because I guess Gaston don't give those out, but that's an awesome machine, and I got it from him. And yeah, I have a shag built machine. It's a rotary. It's really solid, really good machine. I use that for like an 8 round. One of my favorite machines. This is a Stigma Hyper. I've been using this for a few months now. It's a really good machine. Got to be careful. It's really powerful. It runs a lot faster than the older ones. I actually like the way the older ones run, but this one's really good. I've used it a lot. Has different jacks you can use on the back, as you can see. This is also from Stigma, but this is a Bazaar. I actually really like this machine. It runs a little bit slower. It's not as powerful. I can use this one a little bit better as far as for like detail. I use rounds in these, not for line work, but actual for detail work. This is a Franco's machine. It's I think it's called a Bishop, and I got this from him. It's an amazing machine. It reminds me of one of the first rotaries I ever bought, and it runs really well, really slow, really good hit. Runs really good. So these are the machines I'm gonna pick to use today on this Day of the Dead piece. The first machine is a Bloodhound machine. That's one of my favorite machines I've used. I'm actually going to use a 9 bug pin mag in that. The next one's a FK Iron. I'm going to use a 17 bug pin mag. The third one is a Bishop. Use a 5 round. And the last one's a shag built rotary. Use a loose 8 round. Now these are the tubes I'm going to use. That is a 17 mag tube right there. It's actually a 15 from, these are next generation tubes. So I got one for my 8, one for my 5, one for my 9, and one for my 17. The 17 and 9 are normally 15 and 7 mags with standard needles. So I'm going ahead and go and put these inks out. I put a black from Eternal. I put a plum. I went and put a dark purple out from Fusion. I put like an indigo blue from Intense. I put like a royal blue from Eternal. I put an icy blue from Fusion. I'm going to go ahead and put some more ink caps out. This is a different palette I've been using. Actually, I've been painting a bunch, just trying to relearn my color theory. My mind's been kind of blown by some painter artists I've met, and it's really made me humbled and made me hungry to learn more about color and really learn about light and shadow, you know. So I like to thank all these painters that I've met. So I went ahead, go ahead and put a light purple out from Fusion, putting out a brown from a dark brown and a brown from Fusion, putting out like an ochre from Eternal ink. I wanted these on the light side where the light's hitting. I didn't want them on the shadow color side. So one row is actually what's in light, and one row is actually what's in shadow. So I was trying to keep that separate. I'm putting out a dark red. I think it's a pomegranate red. I put 2 of those out. Putting out a bright red from Intense. I think it's like a sunflower from Eternal. That's a ochre, a yellow ochre from Intense. It's an awesome color. It's a Mike DeMasi color. I really enjoy it. I put out Burnt Sienna from Fusion. I put a green, lime green out from Fusion. Tangelo from Fusion. Like a wild orchid from Intense, something like that. A flesh tone from Eternal. A dark flesh tone from Fusion. Putting out Plague, like something like, I don't know, Plague Brown or something. And then some golden yellow, some flesh tone from Fusion. Right now I was almost out of this one. This one's awesome. It's called Peachy Flesh, and it's from Eternal. It's an awesome color. I put 2 of those out. I'm going to mix a little bit of white in there. Well, actually, this is a light color I mixed myself. It's in an Eternal bottle, but I kind of mixed it. It's a little lighter. I use a little white in there too. And put some whites out. Just a bunch of white. I use a lot of white and some colors mixing down, things like that. So I'm going ahead and go put water over these colors. Just because it's a really warm day where I live, and so they're drying out, and I don't want to have to be hitting and barbing my needles on these the tops of these inks as they dry out. So, man, my hand's moving fast there.